Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Debate Hub. We are here. We made it. I am Chesh, your host and master debater, and with me I have Luke and Chris, Bearded Heretic, and Chris Shelton. Thank you both so much for coming. We have a little bit of tech problems in the background, but you know, what do you expect? This is Debate Hub. We're not professionals here. I mean, the whole place looks like Pornhub.
And I take full credit for the technical issues. They're all my fault.
All right, why don't we then just start with Bearded Heretic? Why don't you tell us who you are and what's going on with you, and then we'll dive into our topic after Chris goes.
Yeah, so I'm Bearded Heretic, aka Luke. I do YouTube videos on kind of psychology stuff on Answers and Reasons show. So I have a master's in forensic psychology, and then I also do a bit of atheist stuff that's kind of on my own channel. I haven't done that for a long time though. So yeah, that's my area, my interests.
Chris, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Happy to be here. I'm YouTuber, blogger, podcaster, all content creator, ex-cult member, and somebody who spent the last 10 years learning about coercive control, went and got a master's in it, and talk about that stuff all the time. But today we get to kind of not go into any of that because we're doing movies. It was just my second passion and my favorite thing to talk about. Actually, I even did movie reviews for a little while, but that didn't quite pan out as successfully as all the coercive control content. So I thought I'd leave it to professionals to do the movie reviewing, and I just do stuff like this when I can.
I just enjoy how much of like a bunch of nerds everybody is all the time. There's always like something that everybody else is always actually interested in, and that is what this show is about. So today we've got two psychologists on to tell us why Hollywood is probably manipulating your nostalgia to make crappy discount reboots.
Oh, that's for damn sure. I will agree with that right off.
I love when we start a show called Debate Hub and everybody agrees.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
All right, let's go home.
All right, so today we were talking about reboots and why do they suck, and we're actually going to kind of dive into why they suck, if there's any that are good, and the ones that are good, why were they more successful than others? Like, you got your Toy Story 2, you got your Toy Story 3, and then you got, like, Cars 4, which is, Cars 4.
Ugh.
Or, like, the reboots. And one of the things I did want to point out as we get started here is, like, the Warner Brothers Discovery merger and how much of a big deal a lot of the background stuff has been. Because with the Warner Brothers Discovery merger, it means that Warner Brothers is Warner Brothers Films and Television, DC Entertainment, including the, like, DC movies and the comic book publishing, Home Box Office, which is HBO, and US networks, and Discovery, and Scripps Network, and Turner Broadcasting, and Warner, and CNN Sports, and that which would include Motor Trend Group, AT&T, Sportsnet, TNT Sports, and Eurosport. Global streaming and interactive entertainment, which includes Discovery Plus and HBO Max, as well as Warner Brothers Games, international networks, and the CW, which is like the Food Network and the Cooking Channel, and Nexstar Media Group, and Paramount.
Jesus.
Oof. This is controlled by one dude. And his name is David Zaslav? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Zaslav. So this is one guy. Yes.
Yeah. And
that doesn't surprise me.
No.
Well, I'll just say right now, that alone, what you just described, the corporate ownership umbrella of creativity that is happening now, is part of the root problem of reboots and the entertainment quality these days, as far as I can tell.
Well, this is the guy who canceled Batgirl when it was done.
Yeah,
like, it was done, and he's just like, I don't want to release it.
It's such a bad idea, but there is this uniformity of mediocrity that occurs with this, and that, I'm just kidding about Batgirl. I know people have views on that, but I just have a problem with this again. I just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. I guess that's how I'd put it, is uniformity of mediocrity. It's just, we're going to appeal to the least common denominator, the lowest common denominator, to make the dumbest movies possible, the Fast and Furious 25 and, you know, Mission Impossible 23. And it's like, what are we doing? What is this? And it just is cannibalizing this movie going public over and over again for their money. And it's the most cynical approach to creativity and filmmaking I can imagine. You know?
I guess that's the point, isn't it? It's not about creativity anymore. It's about capitalism. It's about making money. So whatever sells tickets, it doesn't matter. This is why trailers are amazing these days. Trailers used to be the worst thing ever. They were made by small companies, you know, that didn't really know how to edit anything, and they were rubbish. They were so bad, and they'd give away the whole story. There'd be a plot twist that would just be given away in the trailer at the cinema. And it's because, you know, people wouldn't really see them because you'd have to go buy a ticket for another movie. So the likeliness of you seeing that trailer was quite low anyway. But now, because of YouTube and because of like TV and stuff, trailers are incredible, and trailers are usually much better edited and much better. There's much better storytelling within a trailer than there is in the movie in general, because all they're focused on is getting you to that cinema. Getting you know, your seat, your bum in that seat, and then making money off of it, and that's their main drive.
Well,
it doesn't matter if the film is bad.
They're even moving away from that with flooding the streaming market, right? And flooding the streaming market is you don't even have to get anybody into seats. Now you just need to make sure your poster looks good, so when people are just scrolling through, they see something they want to see.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that we have not suffered from that trailer problem with our movie posters over all the decades. I think movie posters have always been a kind of art form, really, in a way, and they are very. I mean, people hang them on their walls and stuff. I mean, they're really quite something. But trailers, I have to agree, they have definitely gotten better. But you know, the kind of trailers I've always hated, just as a comment, is the ones that basically tell you the whole movie.
In a world ravaged by blah blah blah, this man and his dog will blah 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 blah.
Exactly, and they literally showing you trailers should not be allowed to ever show you any scene or clip from the third act.
Do you guys remember movies like Big Trouble in Little China? Because that was that kind of trailer where you would get that, where it's just like Lo Pen and his men are taking over Little China.
Yes, and you're like, what the hell is this? And
Kurt Russell.
And you saw the Lo Pen with the light coming out of his mouth and his eyes, and you're like, what the hell was that? You know, like it captures your attention and it creates mystery. And that's what a good trailer is all about. To be fair,
that whole movie is what the crap was that? I love it.
Movie. I love it. You know?
Luke, do you like Big Trouble in Little China, or are we kicking you out?
Yeah, I've not seen it. I don't think I've seen it, actually, which makes me feel like, I need to see that movie.
No, we gotta get you to see that one. It's one of my favorites. It's so good. But I don't know. There's also like a big difference between like the advent of the internet, right? Obviously, it changed things when it comes to trailers and when it comes to media, and then more competitions with different kinds of shows where you can really pick your niche things about what you actually are interested in, because there's just so much consumable content now. But why is the focus so much on reboots versus, like, it's an established IP, right? So, like, why are we focusing on reboots when right now Hollywood has so much access and so much open form and so much money that why would they not want to actually invest that into creating something new?
So there's a really profit.
That's the easy answer. We all know that.
You know.
Softball question.
One of the things that occurs during financially unstable times is people prefer familiarity. Like people are drawn to familiarity, and I think that it's safe to say that in the past, maybe 15 years, we've been in an economically unstable time, right? So, I think that, like, kind of around 2008, we probably started seeing more of the reboots and the stuff come in, and I think that has kind of led the film industry to say, okay, well, what people are asking for. Now, they're not necessarily focused on the quality. They don't care about the quality at all. They just want to push something out that people are going to go see. But they're taking these old IPs like Indiana Jones, like Star Wars, like Star Trek. Yeah, all of these.
We're going to have to talk about
IPs.
Picard. I'll put a note. Note, Picard.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
And they're basically going, this is familiar. People are gonna purchase it. I watched Next Generation when I was a kid. So.
Well, and that's like this commenter is saying, right? If you create something new, people might not be interested, and you can lose money. And they're not just. And there's a point here also of redefining what success is for a movie, because now that franchises are the thing, and they never were before. Sequels is how we kind of fell into this rut, and then it became franchises. And I think that was a 90s or 2000s concept that sort of became huge when Marvel showed how it could be done. And like in a big, big way, where we started talking about a cinematic universe. And that raised the bar in a way that studio executives started thinking about movies as these IPs, these properties that you could create many different things from. Streaming comes in where it becomes, now we're going to do TV as well as movies. We're going to do cartoons as well as live action. We're going to do, all these different types of properties, all based on the same concepts. And look at all the money we can make, where they've raised the bar, where if it's not making 100, 200, 300 million, it simply isn't worth the time to invest in.
Yeah.
And that kills your creativity for any concept of new projects, taking a risk, throwing something out there that might not succeed at that level because it's new and fresh. And takes, and people need to give it time to grow, and they're not interested in that anymore. And so it's because Hollywood, let's be clear, Hollywood's always been profit driven. But the fact that it all didn't exist under one or two umbrellas drove competition between the studios, where they were forced to take chances. And now they're not. Now it's all safely under Disney or under this or under that, and they don't have to think that they have to take chances, because they can just run this thing and run it for billions of dollars. And hey, I'm a success, even though everybody hates all this content because it sucks, and that's kind of where it's going, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and they don't care about sacking a franchise once it's done and dusted either. Like, once they've driven it into the ground, it's no longer making money. They are happy to just sack it and go, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And I think that is part of this process, is that the franchise is only worth as much as the money it makes to the corporation. It's not about the, like, for us, it's about the nostalgia, and we're excited about seeing something that's so familiar and so warm, that we remember being so good when we were younger. But for them, it's just, there's lots of interest in this now. Let's make something that then, once it stops making money, there's no reason to do it anymore. That's why, things get bad, and then they just stop it, and then it's like, well, now we've got this crap is it really about that, though? Because if you look at Warner Brothers, when the Warner Brothers Discovery merger went through, they canceled a ton of shows that had great ratings. They were just all animated, whether they were for adults or not. Also, I would like to point out that we did get a super chat from Jack of Hearts. Thank you very much for 2. Said 2010s in movies was literally the 80s reloaded. That's like, maybe, but there's a charm to 80s films. There's a charm to the late 80s, early 90s films that are just cheese. And it's just I'm a white woman, I like cheese.
Well, sure, and people always will, which is why when they retire it, they always know that give it 3 or 4 years, give it 5 years, give it 10 years, we'll bring it back. And that's the whole reboot thing, where we're going to update it for a modern audience. And then you take everything that was contextual and useful and good about a thing, and you think and I've watched this happen with Tolkien's work, with Star Wars, with Star Trek, with all the major, and now it's happening with the comic book franchises, is they are taking they gut out because they don't understand what made it work in the first place. They kind of gut it and update it and then serve it up to you and hate you if you don't like it. You're the problem because
right.
we updated it, and you're the problem for not liking it.
You asked for it.
Get it shit, right? And you're like, wait a second. I liked that. I don't like this. That doesn't make me an asshole, you know?
And this was a big thing for me when the sequel trilogy of Star Wars came out, and especially with Rian Johnson's one. His focus, and he said this, was about subverting expectations, and I think that was the attitude that was taken with the fourth Indiana Jones film as well. Is they want to subvert your expectations because they want to give you what you had. They want you to have that nostalgia drive, but they also want to give you something that's slightly different, so it's not the same thing. And J.J. Abrams was very happy with giving you exactly the same thing that you had in the beginning. It wasn't as a good version, but it was exactly what you had, and it may be too close. But Rian Johnson just completely screwed it over because he was trying to trick people, essentially. Like, that's how I see it. He was trying to trick people into expecting something and then go and then pull the rug out from under you, and it was just bad. It wasn't good subversion of expectation. It was just bad.
And that's the thing, is you can subvert expectations correctly, or you can do it well, let's say. That's, correctly. It's not like I have a guidebook on this, but it's like, if you're going to do it, there's a very, very important thing that you have got to remember. Don't hate the people who like the original, right?
Right.
Treat them like there's the scum of this because they don't like your property. But more importantly, you have got to maintain certain story elements, certain genre elements, and certain beats if you're going to be immersing yourself in something like a Star Wars universe or a Star Trek universe.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You know? And when you subvert expectations and then laugh about it, like, hee, look what I did. And to this day, Rian Johnson is unapologetic about what he did. He still thinks we're the problem. It's mind-boggling, the ego that is on display in those moments, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, actually, the real problem is just not understanding the source material to the point where there's no longer internal consistency, which is what the problem. The people have the issue I have with it is that the internal consistency is now completely broken up. Like, it just doesn't make any sense anymore, and it's like it makes the previous films less enjoyable because it's like, where was this stuff then? You know,
that's right. For example, Star Trek.
Yep.
What do you think is the defining thread that runs through all of original series and the first movie sets with the original crew? For me, it's hope.
Yeah.
It's optimism.
It's a better future.
Yeah, it's that thing that we can make a better future. We can have conflict. We can have war even. We can have these problems, but we can work them out. That is what lasted through TNG, even though I had a lot of problems with the plotting of TNG. It wasn't my Star Trek, and I get it, and that's fine. But they didn't lose that thread. Modern Star Trek has completely lost that thread. To modern Star Trek, the universe sucks, and everybody sucks, and everything sucks, and it's all just kind of sucky.
Well, and I'm wondering how much of that has to do with the right now's current events and the current atmosphere, right? Because you can even take that from the 50s and the cartoons that were coming out in the 50s and the shows that were coming out in the 50s, and then roll over, and then it kind of flips itself. It's a coin that's kind of rolling down the way, that sometimes it's optimistic when everybody gets tired of being dragged down all the time, which is, I think, where we're getting at. We're pretty exhausted. I mean, look at the DC and Marvel movies that have done better versus worse recently. It's the ones that are fun and campy, not the ones that are dark and gritty anymore.
Exactly.
Right? It's a flip over.
Zack Snyder made the exact same mistake with the DC universe, right? Is he started it off with, this kind of Ayn Rand approach of you know, it's all is everybody's really all in it for themselves, and really this is just how the world works, and superheroes really shouldn't be, you know, heroic. They should just be gritty and real and awful and horrible, just like us. And it's like, wait a second. I think you kind of lost the plot of what this genre is all about.
You've missed the point. You know? Right.
Yeah, you totally missed the point.
Especially
Star Trek. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, especially with, like, having DC in mind and having Marvel in mind as comic books. Like, Marvel's always been the grittier, the more, like, kind of down-to-earth. It's like, exceptional people rather than like gods. Like
DC's
always
the main
been about
difference,
like gods among men. But DC's always, in my mind, been a bit camper, and a bit more kind of like that kind of like because there is no threat really, so they've been able to do that a little bit from the ones I've read. I know there's some Batman comics that are quite dark and gritty. But with Superman and stuff, it's always been about.
That really happened in the 80s with Batman. After you look at the 60s Batman, you go, what was the hell was that?
So I saw somebody recently putting, Batman and Robin that came out in the 90s with George Clooney and the bat nipples and freeze! All right. There's that movie. I had like a love-hate relationship with that movie throughout my life. When I was a kid, loved it. Became a teenager, could not watch it. I cringed out of my skin. I had to stop watching the movie. And then as I've gotten older, I'm like, I just add in my head the sound effects from the 60s, and I'm like, this is great. This is perfect.
That's right. And that's the thing. You have to watch it in that spirit. That's how Joel Schumacher made them. He was being campy as hell.
Yeah.
But that's not what we really wanted at the time, which is why it crashed so hard, right? Is we wanted a little bit more, a little bit more serious.
Well, and this is coming off the back of the full like grotesque style that Tim Burton had done the Batman movies in not too long before. But you want to talk about like a franchise that has done incredibly well, has existed for an incredibly long time, and recently had a release of a brand new TV series that has just divin into the absolute dumpster and everyone hates it. Velma.
Oh my God.
I have never seen a show hate its own content and its own fans. How do you have a Scooby-Doo show with no Scooby-Doo?
Exactly. And then you take like it hates the audience.
It hates the audience.
Hates the characters.
Yeah, hates Scooby-Doo.
And it crashes every one of them and then takes out the one element that actually unified all of these sort of kind of zany, goofy characters, if we're really going to go, analysis on this, which is the dog.
Yeah.
And it's Shaggy, right? And that relationship, that was the relationship that actually was the heart of the show.
Yeah.
And Mindy Kaling has no fucking concept of that. She doesn't understand any part of that, or she hates that so much that she has to subvert expectations and turn everything on its head and call that entertainment,
and make everything awful.
And those stupidest jokes, the worst parade of nonsense.
Jokes? There's no jokes in that show.
What jokes? Exactly.
Yeah. It's just mean-spirited and hateful.
Yes. Yeah. And
I've not seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Watch it?
Don't watch it. I cannot in good conscience tell anybody to watch it. I watched some of it just to be like, okay, I know people are hating this, but why? This is a lot of hate from everybody. Like, what is going on? And I watched 3 or 4 episodes, and I'm just like, I don't know if I've gotten numb to how awful the first 2 episodes were, but it gets later on in the series, and I'm like, I think I'm just getting numb to how terrible this is.
Yeah.
If I want to watch Scooby-Doo, I watch the first Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
That was a movie that actually cared about its audience and liked it knew what it was. And knowing what you are matters. Yeah.
That's right. And we can actually look at those movies, as craptastic as they might be.
Yeah.
And say, that's kind of how you do it. You take this cartoon and you want to turn it into this live action property, and they did it, and they kept the characters who they were.
Oh, and the casting was perfect. Like, you could not have better casting in that movie. It was amazing.
Right. It really was.
They even had Daphne being like, I learned how to fight, also I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right? Exactly. And Freddie
Prinze, they gave her a whole fight scene, like a whole fight action scene on a roof where it is the exact same type of choreography you would have seen in Buffy.
Exactly. So they're playing with it. They're clearly having fun with it. And the thing about Velma and these other shows recently is they're not fun.
Yeah.
They're just awful to watch. You keep feeling like somebody keeps hitting you in the back of the head with some message. And you're like, what? Why do you keep hitting me with this? Right? Just like it's a phone book sized thing. It just keeps hitting you.
The best thing about Velma is like the messages are all over the place. Like, what am I supposed to be taking away from this show?
Well,
exactly.
I think this is a genuine issue at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a genuine issue at the moment. Because I'm really into like social justice and stuff, but like I see this as a big problem within movies and TV shows because it's clearly what's the word, like value, what's it called?
Virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. Yeah. Because it's not genuine. It's all superficial. It's just like, let's do this. Like, one of the best actually things I saw. There's been 2 Star Wars projects that I think have done it pretty good, and that's Rogue One. They introduced kind of like South American actors and actors of different nationalities with their own accents and stuff, but didn't go, look, this person's got this accent, And then the other one was the Obi-Wan series with the main villain being a black woman, and I thought she was very good. And some people don't necessarily like that character, but I think that's not about her. That's about the writing. But it wasn't about her being black as an issue. Like within, like it wasn't drawing attention. It was just a representation of a black woman.
Well, even if you want to go back,
that's how you do it.
Right? You can go back in the day. Like, people have succeeded in doing this for a very, very long time. The original Star Trek series had Uhura in it, and that was a huge deal at the time.
Yeah.
If you look at Star Trek The Next Generation had men walking around wearing skirts. It played with the expectations of who's the sexualized minority within a species. In, like, the second episode, where Riker's dressed up in that big V top with, like, the crotch bit.
Yeah, there was.
Listen, they might not know what women want, but it's okay. They're trying.
Well, I appreciated the fact that they were trying. I did feel
I appreciated the V-neck. The V-neck was nice.
I appreciated what they were trying to do. I thought that my problem with TNG was it did get preachy, and I really didn't appreciate that very much, right?
It had its moments for sure, yeah.
The original series and the movies for me was show, don't tell. It embodied the values through the actions the characters took, not speeches they made.
Right. Picard is big on speeches, the character.
And on this, like, kind of putting himself on a pedestal of
the moral high ground.
Yeah. And I wasn't, when you're lecturing Q, you're like, dude, just exactly who do you think you are? Like, that was a bit interesting to me, right?
Yeah. It does play into human hubris.
Exactly. And that's fine. I get it. And like I said, I'm not trying to, trash TNG. I'm really not. I know I'm kind of negative about it, but I appreciate what it was trying to do. Modern versions, they gut all of that humanity out of it. And that's my problem with not understanding the source material, not understanding what you're working with and the value of what it has. Just to say, original series, Star Trek original series, that came out in the 60s. Yeah. That came out in a time of hopelessness in America where people were violently engaging in the street. And people were being shot and killed in the street by police and by this and by that. And it was a really bad time. And people were not thinking hopeful thoughts about the future. And Gene Roddenberry goes, oh, yeah? Bam. here's diversity, here's us working together in a cooperative fashion, and here's us conquering the stars as a result. Look what we could do. And everybody went, holy shit, look what we could do.
And it's not even like in the 60s Star Trek, you don't have a war going on. They're at war with the Klingons.
Right. There's stuff, there's lots of conflict, and some really good writing, some incredibly good writing of some of those stories. I mean, there's Star Trek original series stories I'll never forget because they were so good.
So what do you guys think is a reboot that's worked then?
Here's one. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but I hope you have. Did y'all see the Fright Night remake?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
It's so good. I saw the original Fright Night. There's a cinema here called the Prince Charles Cinema, which is like a cinema that exclusively plays like independent and old films. And I saw the original Fright Night, and it was amazing. And then, but before that, like a few years before that, I seen the newer one with David Tennant in it and Colin Farrell.
Yes.
Oh, it's honestly incredible. It's so good.
Wasn't it? And yet,
yeah.
It wasn't the first movie. It was
it wasn't.
By definition, it was a reboot. It was taking the concepts, taking the characters, and let's do something different with them in an original, creative way that stays true to the original plot lines and genre. And it just nailed it. I could not believe how good it was. So that's
really balanced
one of
the comedy.
Examples of when you do it right, because you respect the source material and you build on it in a creative way.
Yeah.
And it didn't try to subvert your expectations, but things that happened in it you didn't necessarily expect, like, because it was just the changes that were updated. You know, the technology that they had was very different, so there were some changes that just made sense. But kind of it did leave you in a kind of situation where you're like, oh, what's going to happen next? Because of the technology increase, rather than it being like, we're going to try and trick you into making this into a conversation around something, you know, a very superficial conversation around that stuff, you know.
That's right.
Oh, guess what? So sorry, people are talking about Thundercats and saying Thundercats was really good, and it unfortunately got canceled. You want to know who Thundercats was? Thundercats Roar? It was Cartoon Network. And you know who Cartoon Network is? Warner Brothers. You want to know why Thundercats got canceled? Because of the merger with Discovery.
There we go.
Oh, we've got all the way around. Because whatever his name is, Zaslav doesn't like cartoons.
There you go.
That's really interesting.
You go, right? It's and again, we're stifling the competition, which is really where the best creativity comes from.
Yes, but also I'm just going to give you pushback on the money comment from earlier, because I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Reboots are safer. You can play off of people's nostalgia. You have more of a safety net there. And even if you put out something schlocky, people are likely to still go see it because they want to know what the hell this is about, because it was something they cared about, right? So people already care, which is the hard thing to do when you're marketing something new, is to get people to care. So you're taking that step out. However, monopolizing and stifling all that makes you less money. Monopolies aren't good for money making. They're good for control. So like you're sacrificing your potential profit for a guaranteed profit.
And I guess they'll take that guaranteed bet because there's millions and millions to be made there. But they don't understand.
It's still a lot of money, yeah.
They don't understand the long-term consequences, or they just don't care because they're not going to be in the job 5-10 years from now. What do they care about audiences? They're not trying to build legacy or any kind of thought about audiences. They just think about money, and that really sucks, you know, in terms of the creative process.
And I think within monopolies like that, they also pitch like the organizations that are under the umbrella against each other in order to kind of like still create like almost like a false sense of competition. So, you know, I think you said Paramount was under there, and then like Warner Brothers movies or whatever, they will literally create different targets for those things in order to create a competition within that umbrella.
Yeah.
Which then drives profits up. So they're still getting all the profits, but they're kind of like being like, if you don't do well enough, then
Well, you remember how many I listed under Warner Brothers Discovery? That's a lot.
It's like Unilever, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if like soap and stuff, and like the PepsiCo and all that stuff. Like they all have these companies. Like I didn't realize for ages that KFC was owned by Pepsi.
Yeah.
And then it's like now it makes sense why they have Pepsi in all their shops and stuff. But it's
exactly. That's kind of how you can tell who owns the place, is what kind of Cokes they're distributing.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about like whether or not you Okay, so before we go too far off to the side, reboots that have worked and reboots that don't seem to have things in like almost standard rules around them that you would say guidelines. You would say respect the audience.
Yep.
Understand what you're rebooting in the first place.
Yes.
And bring something new to the table.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if it's going to be a comedy, by the way, and this is where it's hardest, it has to be a good comedy too. I mean,
oh yeah.
I didn't care about the Ghostbusters remake with the all-female cast, and the reason I didn't care about it when I watched it is because it wasn't funny, not because of the female cast. It was just a bad movie.
What do you mean? Women are just not funny. That's why I have a show called Debate Hub where we're all sitting here laughing and having a good time. Or why I have a show called Dumb Feck Friday that is entirely just a comedy chat show.
Right.
Women are funny!
You know? Well, women are not funny, clearly.
Women are not funny. This is a no fun zone.
No, there are lots of funny women. And in fact, that movie was filled with women who have proven that they are funny, which is why it was such an appointment. Every one of them could deliver a masterclass in doing comedy. They are that good. Yeah. So when you see them be that bad, you're like, what the hell happened here?
Who did this?
Who did this to them? I don't blame them at all. They were just acting in this dumbass movie. But who put this thing together and then served it up and said, this is good stuff, you should watch this? Oh, it was awful.
They feel like Adam Sandler films, like later on Adam Sandler films.
It's not wrong.
Like Adam Sandler started off, I think, quite well. Like I really like Happy Gilmore and stuff like that. But then like his later films are just filled with fart jokes and like shit jokes and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's what right. That's like everyone seemed to love Bridesmaids. I just thought it was like I thought it was a bit rubbish actually, because it was just those kind of jokes. And same with Ghostbusters. It just seems like it's that kind of jokes and it's like I don't want to keep watching Adam Sandler films. I want to watch something that like makes me laugh. Like I'm bored of those jokes.
I also think it's good to have a message, but your message ought not be blue people, unga bunga Pocahontas, human bad. Thanks, Avatar.
Well, I mean, James Cameron's never been known for his subtlety. I think, like that's one thing that he's.
That's fair.
But I'll tell you something about James Cameron that's quite interesting, because you can look at movies. It's really interesting. It was really hit me the other day after watching Heat, Michael Mann movie from the 80s, right? Your 90s, right? You have Val Kilmer, you got Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I mean, you've got heavy hitters in that movie. And that's what makes that movie work, not its story. Its story is shit. But the acting and the action sequences and the pacing of the movie and everything about it works anyway. So it's not even coming down to story all the time. But there has to be something about the movie that is compelling and interesting and driving your attention forward. And that's, what Heat does, which got me thinking about that with comedies, right? Comedies is you have to be willing to take risks.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to do something a little wild and crazy, right? And I think back to the wildly successful comedies of the early 80s with Airplane and the Naked Gun movie and these crazy
Blazing Saddles and Spaceballs.
Mel Brooks was the comic genius of the 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah.
And these were risk-taking movies. These were movies that were out there pushing the edge a little bit, right? And And people are like, "Oh, you could never make Blazing Saddles today." And Mel Brooks is like, "I barely made it then. What are you talking about?"
Right. And there's this whole thing about, and they're in those movies, particularly the Mel Brooks movies, you can see some of the flubs. Like, they leave them in. The one that comes to my mind in particular is that these are people of the land, you know, morons. And the guy almost completely loses it, and they just left it in.
Exactly.
Men in Tights Robin Hood Men in Tights is another great example. But you can take these movies, and the thing is like, a lot of times comedy does have a message of some sort, but you can have a discussion about what that message actually is or what it means. You can talk about it. And if it's just slamming you in the back of the head with whatever the message is, there's nothing to talk about. It's just an annoyance that's happening passively as you're trying to enjoy your movie.
Yeah. But this is where I do think profit is starting to take over to a certain extent, because I think that comedies are quite cheap to make. Same with horror films. Like, you can see this in horror films now as well. More than ever, is that, well, I think this probably started in like the 80s and 90s with the churning out of endless sequels and stuff in the horror genre. But now it's the same.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing with like right now, is that you get a golden nugget of a horror film, but most horror films are just the same horror film, just repeated and repeated, and it's because they're really cheap to make and they make loads of money in the cinema. So, well, compared to their cost. Same with comedies, like they want to do the bare bones script and as little as possible in order to make the
rom-coms.
Work.
Rom-coms.
Yeah,
rom-coms are the same movie. There's
and that's the thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
The formula movie will persist. Rom-coms are,
Marvel fed us the same movie with the same like beats for all the way up till the end game. Like, all of them had the same beats over and over and over again, but they were good because they were being explored in different ways with different characters. That's why people didn't really mind, and it was a good formula in the first place.
And they used different genres as like a basis for each film as well, which I think is like one of the best. Like they had like spy kind of like genre for like Captain America, and then they had like more of just pure action. But
there's also like a really big psychological dive for each one of those characters, because each one of those characters are experiencing the beats differently and they're taking them differently. For example, Tony Stark's narcissism and PTSD, and that whole thing that he goes through to actually, interestingly enough, as much as narcissism becomes such a buzzword for people to just throw around all the time, that's a movie franchise, that's a character that goes through over the course of like nearly 10 movies where he stops being a narcissist. Like, he cures his narcissism.
Well, that's exactly right, because he wasn't necessarily at the get-go, he wasn't like a predatory narcissist. You could see this guy was Mr. Ego Fest and blind to the destruction he was causing. And then you see this entire character arc play out movie by movie, point by point, all the way through to Endgame.
But the dude had no idea. Like, Tony Stark had no idea how his weapons were being used at all due to his ego and his negligence. Right. And it's not like people wouldn't have told him or it wouldn't have been on the news. He didn't give a shit until it affected him directly. Yeah. Very directly. Like, missile up his ass directly.
Exactly, and that's human psychology writ large. That's playing on something, in other words, people can connect with.
And I think this is sorry, go.
No, I'm just saying
this is the big issue. Yeah, and this is a big issue with the Marvel movies now, is that they're in the same position that the DC movies were in when they started coming out, because they're trying to play catch up.
They needed to take a break. Yeah,
they absolutely do, because the Marvel movies at the moment are trying to re-establish what's already been established. They're essentially They're essentially rebooting at the moment their franchise within it, because they've lost all their lead characters essentially, except for a few. And DC, the problem DC had was that they rushed to Justice League without doing any of the groundwork that Marvel had done prior to the first Avengers movie. And that is now what I'm seeing
it's Burnout.
It's Burnout. And Burnout. Yeah,
the whole thing on Zack Snyder's dime, which was absolutely the wrong person to have chosen for that genre.
Right.
He was good for Watchmen. He was good for Watchmen. That's the kind of story Watchmen is.
Yeah.
It's dark. It's real. It's as real as it gets.
But it talk about taking risks, though, because the risks don't just apply to comedy, right? They apply to entertainment or creativity at large. You're taking a risk when you make a movie out of The Watchmen. When you make an animated film, Lionsgate, by the way, owned by WB, the best part of the DC universe. Anything that's come out from Lionsgate has been amazing. They're all animated. They animated The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Not particularly a fan, to be honest, but that's fine. I appreciate that they did it. I
It was a risk on their part, and they were putting something forward that was going to be incredibly difficult to do. And the thing is we're living in, the weird thing to me is that we're living in like a creative renaissance. Anybody can make a video. Anybody can make a video on YouTube. It's not hard to get a camera together. You can make fucking anything, and you can post it wherever the hell you want, and you have so much reach, more than you ever possibly could have imagined that you would ever have. There are so many artists making so much art that is so easily accessible to everybody, and yet, here we are with Fast and the Furious. We're living in the joke of the Jaws movie from Back to the Future.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you this, because I agree with what you just said, but I have a twist there.
Yeah.
With that renaissance, you have also, though, the problem of people who don't necessarily understand or take the time to learn what is the hero's journey, what is a 3-act story, how does this all break down, what works and what doesn't in storytelling.
Good stuff gets buried in schlock. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there's a
you know,
there's a thing about this as well, though, is that the first, like, I don't know if you guys remember the first few films you watched when you were kind of growing up. They were like amazing. Didn't matter how good they actually were.
Oh yeah.
You probably look back on them now and go, "They were awful," right? And I think that there is a majority of, like, I think there's a bunch of us that really love movies and probably go see a lot of films and watch a lot of films at home and stuff, like the three of us sitting here. And I think that there's probably a lot of people that only go to cinema maybe once or twice a year, and they go see the big things that are being released. And that, I think, the fact that they haven't seen a good movie, they haven't seen many good movies, means that the movies that they go and see are good to them. And that is how they're brought into, you know, the fold of, like, you know, this machine that's trying to churn out stuff. It churns it out for the lowest common denominator, people that don't really know what a good film is.
That's right. That's right, because when you look to, and I go on Reddit all the time, and I'm reading people's commentary about why films are good or bad, and it's really interesting from a more educated perspective. My wife has a master's in screenwriting. I mean, I hear about this all the time.
Yeah.
And so when you come at it with a more educated approach, it's interesting to see how people are criticizing something and they are rightfully upset about it. But even they don't necessarily understand why they don't like it. They'll assign this or that to it when what they're really saying is this character never had any conflict, or this character didn't have any challenge.
Character never learned anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I talk about that hero journey, right? Like, you got to hit a point where you're hitting a brick wall and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Go ahead, Luke.
And this is what
Sorry, but I meant before.
Social justice can really interfere. Sorry, did I interrupt?
No, you're good. That was me.
This is where social justice can interfere, because, like, Captain Marvel, there's two kind of things, like Captain Marvel and the Star Wars sequels. Both of those sets of films, the female protagonists are not beaten at all throughout the whole film. They're not. Right. They win every fight they have, and the logic behind that is that for women, or supposedly, this is the argument that people make, is for women, they don't want to see women being beaten by a man. They don't want to see that. They want to demonstrate that women are as, or if not more, powerful.
And women are already also treated special in movies. Anyway, one of the few exceptions to that was Kill Bill. In Kill Bill, you see violence towards women, but in most movies, it'll cut away. Like, you won't see that. Or they'll find an excuse. I was watching an anime recently, it's called, because this happens even in anime. It's called The Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. And two of there's 3 people that show up that have, like, they're really powerful. One of them's a woman. The good guys kill, one of them decapitates one of the dudes. The other one just gets the shit pummeled out of him, but then that evil guy runs away and kills the girl evil one because they didn't want to show the good guys beating the shit out of this woman. And it's like, well, you know, true equality, gender equality.
Yeah.
I mean, if I might, I'm so happy you brought up Kill Bill.
Yes.
I'll highlight this aspect of this, right? I think you guys are nailing it on this, on the female, protagonist here. If there is one thing, and there are a lot of things you could say about Quentin Tarantino of a positive nature, the man absolutely understands film.
Yeah.
And he understands genre. And he understands all the tropes and all the reasons it works. And he's proven that in all the movies that he's made. They are consistently incredible quality films that he and his writing partner wrote, and then he executes his vision. And you watch Beatrix Kiddo get the shit pummeled out of her numerous times through the course of this movie because she is going up against the best, and she takes them all out. And it's a very big 2-movie
Kill Bill starts with a woman at her wedding, pregnant, getting shot in the head, after getting the shit kicked out of her.
So it's not true that you cannot show women getting beaten up.
Right. No.
That you have to put it in a context where you understand what's going on and you know where this is kind of going and you're along for the ride.
The next scene she's even conscious for is her coming to consciousness, be raped by a staff member at the hospital she's in, while she's in a coma. Right. And so, and that's a thing that happens in real life, and you have no idea how many times this has happened before this one moment.
Of course. But then you see, again, you see actions, not words. It shows
the empowerment, right.
What does she do? She crawls out of that bed and beats the fuck out of that guy.
With a door.
Right, with a door. She literally takes
she cuts his Achilles tendon, doesn't she?
Yeah,
That always makes me cringe when I see it.
Yeah, because here's this absolute scumbag taking advantage of her and getting karmic justice, and we are all rooting for her immediately and at once.
Yep. She's
actually kind of an evil person, right? Like, she's not a good guy.
No, she is not a good guy. She does have ethics, though, and we can talk about that. She's got principles, and we can talk, because she goes to the ladies who's got the kid, and she makes sure that the kid is not there for what's about to go down.
That's right. And then she even says, maybe I'll see you in a few years, right? Because that little girl could grow up to come after her.
Right, exactly.
She knows exactly what that's on, because that's the journey she's on.
There's a really great example. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me just say this, and then please tell me. It doesn't ever compromise with that reality.
Yeah.
She doesn't become this flowery, butterfly-filled, wonderful person by the end.
Right.
She gets her revenge. That's what the story is.
And
it stays true to that. It
seems to be a misnomer about what women empowerment should look like. It's not about you can never lose, and I think it sets a bad expectation for young people. This is just not the way it is. A good example would be Arcane. That's the League of Legends TV series that came out. If you haven't watched it, I'd highly recommend it. But the 2 of the main characters are sisters. And they get the shit kicked out of each of them for different reasons. And it also covers, schizophrenia and paranoia. And, it's got, the character Jinx has like a serious, like, it takes Harley Quinn and kind of does something different with that styled character, but actually dives into the psychology a little bit more about like how this character becomes this way. And we're about to get at like the Arcane 2, where we're actually going to see that character. This was the creation of that character. Now we get to see what happens now that she is living as Jinx from before, like up to that point where that personality just takes over, and then this now we've got a sociopath. But you get like you get a ton of stuff in there. But one of the main characters is Vi that you follow, and Vi is a boxer. She's a street fighting boxer. That's what she does. So she's regularly get nosebleeds, punched in the face, swollen eyes. You get the prissy character who is like a rich girl who wants to be a cop, and you see her getting like hazed, and then you see like all kinds of fun stuff like that. You got a disabled man who is Victor that you get to see early on. You get to see how they write immortality, because one of the characters has been around for a very long time, and how that can breed like inaction. And so like it has like a and it's got, just specifically because it has such a good solid character base, right? But they're introducing these characters to people who don't know them, right? So they have to take sorry
sounds like good writing to me.
I do have one question.
Not just
right.
tropes, not just shallow veneers of some social value.
And people loved it, but people weren't like, "Oh, Jinx lost or Vi lost the fight, therefore bad for women." That never even. This isn't a conversation that's happening.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it robs those characters of like their most defining moments. Like if we think of Luke Skywalker versus Rey, Luke's one of the most defining moments is when he loses to Vader and gets his hand cut off and gets told the truth about who Vader is. And I cannot think of a single moment in the trilogy where Rey has a moment that is that impactful.
And all of that
like,
comes from him making a mistake where he ignores his mentor and goes when he's not supposed to.
Exactly. And it's so intense, not only because he's just lost the fight, but because of the emotional weight behind the message from Vader. But I think that but that message is only powerful because he lost the fight. Whereas in Rey's situation, like with the grandpa
Vader,
Palpatine,
Palpatine.
There was she didn't lose anything. What did she lose? To make that impactful.
She was a useless character. The entire thing was useless because there was no message. And then at the end, Palpatine's back. I mean, you can even see Oscar Isaac's just like, what am I doing in this movie? It was awful. It was so incredibly awful.
And just to demonstrate, I think, how superficial their social justice messaging is, all you have to do is look at the way that they treated John Boyega, and then you can see that actually it's all a bunch of bullshit. It's all there for optics. None of it is real, and that's why criticizing it, I feel comfortable criticizing it, because like I know that like it's not the values that I don't truly believe they have those values. They're just trying to appeal to what they think is going to sell the most.
Well, and this causes a whole different.
Was awful.
And this brings a whole bunch of baggage with it, right? Because now people are blaming the SJWs for ruining Star Wars, and other people are blaming the media for like, oh, the media's gone woke, or blah 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 blah. And it's like, how about just it's a bad movie and make a better movie and focus on why it's a bad movie.
Well, it's
if you want better movies
now, if I dare say this.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Right. Amazon's engaged in it. Lucasfilm's engaged in it. Right? Disney's engaged in it, which is, oh, you didn't like our shitty product? Well, that means here's your label, right?
Right.
Or here's why you're a bad person for not liking our shitty product. And I watched this play out with Wheel of Time and with the Rings of Power series, and I've watched it play out with these movies, especially with the Star Wars sequels. And you're just like, holy shit, man, you guys have no self-awareness or introspection at all in you as creators. to just blame the audience for not liking your shitty product. I'll tell you a place where I have never seen SJW values, let's say, or progressive values, or just let's call it reality.
Yeah.
So realistically and well, I'm telling you, it's been so many years of bullshit and nonsense and bashing you over the head with the message that to see The Last of Us,
the
TV
series,
quality of writing in that TV series, and specifically episode number 3, which I hope you guys have seen. It's the
I haven't seen any of it yet.
Spoilers.
I haven't got Now TV. I haven't got Sky. So
oh, you mean streaming services are ruining everything because they're flooding the market?
They are.
Motherfuckers.
So I'm waiting for all it to come out, and I'm going to get a free week at some point, and then I'm just going to binge it in that week.
There you go.
Aye, matey. Aye.
Yes. Have you seen that joke? It's a person who's been these streaming services are great. Takes off pirate hat, puts it in a drawer. Pop. All the streaming services pop up. Opens drawer. Hello, old friend.
Yes. I don't know anything about any of that, but The Last of Us is absolutely some of the most high quality television or entertainment, I'll say, right, that I've ever seen. I have a top 5 list, and I tend to that list often. It's Breaking Bad, The Wire, these kind of shows, right? And The Last of Us is in there now because it really treats these people as people first who have certain characteristics second. And the characteristics they have are not there, just like you, me, all of us, right? There is no one thing that makes us who we are.
I think that's actually just the same in the games. Like the games portrayed it in exactly the same way, and I'm glad it's done that in the show as well. But I think that and that's what the representation that because I am really into like social justice, like, but I just think it's done so badly most of the time by companies that don't give a shit. They don't give a shit, and even and you can see it because like they'll change their Twitter logo for the UK or the US version to the rainbow during Pride Month, but then their Russian one or their China one, they won't.
I have different thoughts on that, but yes, go on.
Well,
I don't think you're
that
wrong.
That shows me that the values aren't important. So
they're just riding some coattails,
right? Yeah, in some ways, yes. I have a little bit of.
Chesh, come on.
That's what they're doing.
Okay, no, I don't. I agree.
In those countries.
Well, yes. So I agree with you. I do think there's a couple additional caveats in some more extreme situations. So, like, if you're looking at Iran or if you're looking at China, they wouldn't be able to sell their product in that area, which you can view it as cynically as in they're not able to sell their product, therefore they can't make money and they want to make money. But the other way is that you can view it is we have an LGBTQ plus character in here that is a good, well done character, so not a trope, but an actual well written character, like let's say The Last of Us. But if we put a big LGBTQ flag on here, nobody in China's gonna get it. Which means we can't help China be more or less progressive to our values as Westerners and potentially make changes in that area. So do I think that's what they're doing? No, not as a company. Do I think there's individuals within the company that give a shit about these kinds of things? I would say yes.
Definitely. Yeah, and But like this is like the China thing is a really good example. Like the whole John Boyega thing was that they reduced his image on the Chinese version of the poster because China has racist attitudes and they didn't want to make him out like to be a bit major character.
But they didn't change the film, which they could have done. Back in the day, that shit used to happen all the time. A really good example is like, oh guys, let's sit around and eat some donuts. rice balls.
What they did do was reduce John Boyega's role progressively as the films went on, which may have been as a response to the sales in China.
That could be.
I don't know.
I thought it was more. I mean, I blame Ryan Johnson for that one again. Personally, I don't think his efforts to subvert expectations ruined the basic triumvirate that is the Star Wars genre, right? And like Star Trek as well, right? Is you have this 3-character representation of values and gender and various things, but mostly you have the ability to play off each other in unique and interesting ways, and it gives you a lot more storytelling power with those 3 characters than with just 2, with a duality. And so, you know, in your original series, you know, you obviously have Luke and Leia and Han, and then all the supporting characters, and in the sequel you had it set up to be that, and then Ryan Johnson just came along and just threw it all off the table and said, ha ha ha, look at what I did, isn't that great?
He knocks it all off the table, puts a map down, here's the plan, and everybody's like, I liked the shit on my table, bro.
Exactly, you know, and then he just kind of basically ruined that Finn character. I mean, he sent him off on some side quest that was meaningless, and put him into a romance that went nowhere, and it was all just goofy. It was just goofy. It was literally like Goofy had taken over the script writing.
It was in earnest. It was poorly done because they didn't care, and it was performative. And when you combo those 3 together, you're not going to get something good, whether or not you're trying to do something good or not. Clearly, you're not.
Exactly.
And everything you learned in the first film was completely scrapped.
Yep.
Yeah, and I really wish that Abrams had a creative bone in his body so that he could have fixed it, but you know, didn't go anywhere.
He just he has no creativity, so he likes to pretend he does by saying it's a mystery box. We don't know what it is, and then it's like he can't.
Do you guys remember when Star Wars was first coming out and everybody found out it was going to be J.J. Abrams, and everybody was like, okay, if these are bad, we're calling him Jar Jar Abrams forever now.
No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Oh man.
I remember being excited about it though, because he'd just done Super 8.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it was around that time. He had a good reputation.
I really enjoyed Super 8. Yeah, he had a good reputation at that point. I think Super 8 had just come out, and I was like, Super 8 was great.
And you know that Super 8 is complete homage to Steven Spielberg, right?
Spielberg, yeah. That's why I liked it, because I thought that. I thought that he would have the skill to do a homage type thing to George Lucas as well, because obviously, you know, George Lucas is, and I was like,
I mean, to be fair,
he kind of did.
I think he did.
Copied the movie.
Okay, but except for, do you guys remember Howard the Duck?
Oh yeah,
that was George Lucas. So like, if you want an homage to George Lucas, you're gonna have some really weird shit.
Well, okay. I mean, to be fair, everybody's got their bad, right? I mean, Spielberg 41.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was George Lucas.
Yeah.
All right.
We've all got our, you know, movies we wish hadn't happened. You know, but the thing about Abrams is Super 8 comes out and we all go, oh shit, this guy could be like a new generation Spielberg. And then you learn the hard way through his other creative endeavors that no, he's just cribbing from other people's originality and creativity and calling that something new and original.
Right, you say the same thing about M. Night Shyamalan, right?
In a way, although I think he keeps cribbing from himself.
Well, yeah, he did it right once and then didn't know why, and then then made a terrible Avatar movie, and I feel like he needs to just whatever he suffered for making that movie, it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan has a brain full of really great ideas that he just does not know how to.
He needs a best buddy. He needs a best buddy.
So this is the thing with George Lucas as well. Steven Spielberg
needs a buddy.
Honed George Lucas's vision, especially for Indiana Jones. George Lucas originally wanted aliens and Indiana Jones, and Steven Spielberg was like, "No, we can't do that. We can't do that." That's why Indiana Jones 4 was crap because
right.
because they went there.
That's right.
But that's what M. Night Shyamalan needs. He needs someone who's going to take his idea and go, okay, yeah, this is what we need to do.
We need to sit down in a room for a week.
Yeah.
Call one of the Scientologists. Make him sit down across the way. We're not leaving.
Let me make this point as well, which is we really do, lionize the directors here and Lucas's vision and all of that. There's a little hidden element in this too, which is a guy named Lawrence Kasdan, who's actually like the story guy on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and on I believe he also was involved in Wrath of Khan, if I remember. Or that was Nicola Harv Bennett. I think was Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, best Star Trek ever as far as I'm concerned, and I will die on that hill. So that's my,
fair.
So I think the writing is a little hidden element in here.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't necessarily get the credit it deserves because we don't remember those names as well as we remember the Spielberg and the Lucas.
Yeah.
But those men were enabled by and assisted by genius people.
Yeah.
And it highlights the team collaboration effort that you're bringing up with Shyamalan, right? Is because there was this awesome, I can't find it anywhere on the internet anymore. There was ever actually, but there was a comedy radio show out of Los Angeles that did a skit about M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong getting selling his soul to the devil for one good movie.
You mean all you need is one?
It just laid it all out. The devil was like, "Nope, you're getting one good movie, and it's going to be amazing, and the rest of your career is going to be shit." And he's like, "Sign me up, I'll do it."
So we are past the hour mark.
But he still makes them,
and we're probably going to have to stop there because we are past the hour mark. I do have one last thing to talk about, but I think we save it for next time. But I want to put it as a bug in your ear before we leave. So don't answer. Don't answer this one. You can think about it. Leave us comments down below, and then maybe we can schedule another one of these because this is fucking fantastic. We kind of hop, skipped, and jumped over movie critics. And whether or not, like, with no longer having access to, like, your what's their name? Oh, God. Yes, your Cisco and Ebert. Yeah, we don't have, like...
I grew up with those
people
guys.
We don't... my brain was, like, thinking of the Muppets. And I was like, what? Shit. But, like, we don't have that trusted... thing anymore. It seems like people don't trust critics when it comes to writing, and there's, with the advent of YouTube and all those critics that came out with that whole thing, and so I just want to put that bug.
Tomatoes phenomenon, I'll say, right?
Yeah.
Where it's criticism,
right?
And the professional critics and the audience can actually radically disagree in interesting ways.
Yeah,
that's an interesting phenomenon. Actually, it's quite an interesting one. And certainly one worth commenting on. Yeah, we'll have to come back with that one. One thing for you guys to answer is there a franchise that you've seen recently that is a new IP that you would like to give to people that they should go and check out? Well, I'll say Last of Us because I already pimped that one. I think that counts. I would count that as new. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of televised entertainment, it certainly is. And I'm very, very interested in where they're going to go with it because I already know where the game goes. Yeah. And I'm wondering where they're going to go on the TV show. If they go into where the game goes, I'm not going to really be as big a fan of season 2 as I am of season 1 because I don't really like what they did. But it's so goddamn good that I can't take my eyes off the screen when I'm watching this show. These characters are compelling. And it's so rare when you see such amazingly good quality writing and acting and direction, and everything is coming together, and the production values are out the roof, and the special effects and CGI are completely invisible. You have no idea what you're looking at in terms of what's real and what's not, but it's all so being taken in so well that you're not even thinking about it because you're so immersed in the story. That's when my suspension of disbelief is not acknowledged, it's not even in the room. That's when I am hooked, and that's what this show has done for me. So I'll put that out there. And in terms of I don't know about IPs or or reboots and stuff, but I can't recommend the movie The Whale enough.
Brendan Fraser, we stand Brendan Fraser, King, King.
I was bawling at the end of that movie.
Love
I mean,
that,
straight up in a public movie theater, fucking losing. I was just lost it. It was such a beautiful experience. So I really can't recommend that one enough.
I've been wanting to watch it for a while.
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch that. My thoughts, I'm gonna stick with superheroes, I think. Because I really love The Boys. I think it's 3 seasons in, and it's so good. It's like I think it's like really good political commentary whilst also being extremely entertaining at the same time. Like, you know, it's extremely satirical, but like how GTA is satirical, it's fun as well, and then it's gratuitous. So it's kind of like you kind of just get wrapped up in it. And I also think Invincible as well is. Like one of the best animated superhero TV shows I've ever seen in my life. I think it's absolutely insanely incredible. Has a similar vibe to The Boys, but it's a little less thing. And then one more, just because I want to add some D&D nerdness here. The Legend of Vox Machina.
Oh yes.
The Critical Role series.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very
say
good.
Anything. It's very good, and
these are the best dragons that I have ever seen, ever on TV.
Yes. I am definitely interested in that Vox Machina. Is that how you say it?
Machina.
Yeah. Okay, cool. People are commenting about The Expanse, and it's well deserved. The Expanse is probably the one of the best sci-fi series I've ever seen. It's absolutely good, and I agree with the commenter that they rushed the ending. But up until then, I mean, it's hardcore, amazing. It's what the future could really look like, and I really loved it. So I'll definitely put in a plug on that one. I got to see Invincible.
You'll like it.
Did you think season 3 was a little bit not quite up to snuff compared to 1 and 2 though?
For The Boys?
The Boys.
Yeah.
I have heard that.
I was not impressed with season 3. It basically ended where it started, and this whole conflict kind of went nowhere, and I was very disappointed in that.
I think I just got really drawn into the action. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
But I was like, oh my god, Soldier Boy is fighting Homelander. This is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I was just completely lost in it.
I guess I was hoping for more, but I'm
and the Hero Gasm episode was so funny.
Sometimes you gotta have a lull in your show. Just let sometimes the action take over and then go from there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I forgot
One thing I will plug about The Boys is they fucking nailed Scientology. Nailed it in season 2. Like, pitch fucking perfect. I couldn't believe it. I loved it. Loved that. So, yeah.
All right, we should look to wrap up. Where can people find you guys? Luke, do you want to go first then, Chris, and then we'll get on out of here?
Yeah. So I have my own channel.
Link down below.
Heretic, but I don't really go on it that much. So if you want to find me or watch me, then probably head over to Answers in Reason, which is I'm there every other Monday. I was supposed to be on this Monday, but because I was streaming today, I decided not to stream yesterday. So I'll be there in 2 weeks' time doing something
stole him.
Else. You stole me, yeah. So,
I'm stealing Joe later too.
Are you? Psych education. That's mainly what I do. So yeah, come and have a look.
Excellent. I love the commenters. I agree with everything. I agree with. Because they're right. They're totally right. The Expanse's ending wasn't as rushed as Game of Thrones. Get that right.
Oh,
franchise, right?
Too soon.
Oh. Yeah, right.
I'm still not recovered.
You can find me on YouTube under my name, Chris Shelton. I've got a book on Amazon called Scientology A to Xenu. Tell you all about Scientology if you're interested in that. And my channel is all about emotional intelligence, coercive control, what cults get up to, a lot of Scientology related stuff. And you can find it on YouTube.
That's awesome. Thank you guys both so much for coming. We'll have to schedule another one of these and do the failure of movie critics. The two things I would recommend that people go and check out that haven't been recommended here yet is actually watch Velma. Just like 2 episodes, just so you can see it. Just see, like, because, like, if you can realize that you're gonna have, like, a visceral reaction to this show, it's gonna tell you a lot about yourself, because now you can analyze why are you having such a visceral reaction to this god-awful nonsense. But at least you know it's awful going in. And second is, go watch Teen Titans Go. That show is fucking brilliant, and everyone hates it, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Watch Teen Titans Go. It's a little goofy fucking cartoon based on Teen Titans DC. It's bizarre. It, like, brings in, like, the absolute, like, absurdity of, like, jump cutty shit of, like, we're going around the world to create the perfect sandwich. It's just absurdity, and I love every second of it, so enjoy. Maybe think about it, maybe don't. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for coming. This has been Debate Hub. I've been Chesh, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye!